God is wonderful, God is gracious, God is full of love and hope. Amen? When you sit with God, there's love and there's hope. When we sit with God and you don't receive, or you don't experience love and hope, then you might have the wrong perspective of who God is. I always say, if you believe God is an angry God, then you will represent that same type to the earth. If you see God is a loving God, you will represent love to the earth. You see, so many times people think God is angry at us, God wants to punish you for everything you do wrong. And so we believe in that Father, and we see Him as an angry Father, and then what happens to us is when we then we come with the Bible to other people, and then we want to use the Bible as swords to cut people. We want to fight them. We want to tell them how bad sinners they are and how bad they are, because they are just not on the standards. Their life standard is not the same as your life standard. And so I preached. I started this series about the simple gospel. It's the good news about God. It's the good news about Jesus and what He's done for us on the cross, and that He came to save us and to bring wholeness and life to us. You see, the gospel and the grace of God is not just, it's not a teaching. It's the grace of God is a person. And so many times when somebody says, I want to preach about the gospel, you're like, again. The gospel is the power of God unto salvation for everyone who believes. So what God wants to do is to stir excitement in your heart for the gospel. Because we're not going to change the world otherwise than through the gospel of Jesus. And we need to believe it so that the people in the world can see we believe it. You know what makes somebody believe in a nice car is when the salesperson believes in that nice car. You can see when somebody tries to sell something, or when somebody really believes in something. And so it's important that, I've mentioned this before, that you choose what you believe and stand upon it. You see our previous President Nelson Mandela, he stood for something whether it cost him a lot. And the question is when we stand for things and we decide in our heart, I will stand for the love of God, then from that point of view, I will reflect the love of God. And I want to tell you, as soon as you choose to stand for something, you will get persecution. Somebody will come against you. You know how many people has come to this church and they say, oh, we're going to be here forever, we're going to stay here, and then they go home and they speak to a parent that is in another church and they say, no, this is why are you going to that? Just because the building doesn't look like other churches. How ridiculous have we become that we serve God for a building? That we serve God for all these external things, but where's the relationship? Where's the intimacy? Where's the fellowship? Where's the realness of who Jesus is? You see, the thing is, we cannot come to church and play church. The world does not, that we tell people we are Christians. If you tell me you are a bread, then I expect you to taste like a bread, look like a bread, and smell like a bread, and be attractive like a bread, and be what you say you are. We've got too many people that say we are Christians because we use the name of Christ because we don't know where we want to belong. We don't want to be Buddhists. We don't want to be Muslims. We want to be somewhere, so we choose the category of Christians. But do you smell and taste like the same thing that you confess with your mouth? Are you with me, church? Yes. It's time that you smell the same way that you say you are. There's no point. The world is not interested. You know what? We play church games. We want to impress each other. But you know what? The world is not impressed about you. The world will either want to see the real deal. And you know what the world does? Is when you say you stand for something, it will sometimes take them 2 years before they come to you and ask you, what do you believe? Why do you look different than the world? Because the world always want to see if what you believe is real. Or have you just jumped on another wagon that's going to take you somewhere? You see, we choose different wagons because we find that some doesn't work and some works. But I told you previously that it's important for us to understand that when you stand for the Word of God, you stand for the Word of God. You don't stand for people's opinions, you stand for God. And it's important that you get the fear of man out of your heart, because you cannot serve God properly with fear of man and try to have fear of God. You have to choose who you want to serve. You either serve humans or yourself, or you serve God. There is no middle line. You see, we think sometimes it's okay. We wanna please people. We're not here to please people. We're here to love people and then manifest Jesus to them. And that they may smell that you are a bread, and that when they are becoming hungry, that they will come to you and eat. And when they take a bite of you, that you won't be like a sour worm. Hallelujah. So the gospel of God is amazing. God gives us grace through His amazing word. God gives us grace through what Jesus came to give us. And I want to tell you is that you cannot change your behaviors if God doesn't change your heart. You cannot change your behaviors if God doesn't change your heart. So it's important for you to understand that when you don't like a certain behavior pattern of your life, you need to go and find grace, because the Bible says, come to His throne of grace. Come to His throne of grace when in your time of weakness, when you are needy, come to the throne of grace. Because grace, we have made grace a very interesting subject in the church. Some people don't want to know anything about grace, because what people have done is, just when I got introduced to grace, I got excited about the goodness of God, that God loves us, He doesn't punish us anymore, He doesn't put our sins against us, because He put our sins against Jesus. And Jesus took one punishment for them, for now and forever. Because Jesus died once for your sins, for always. Because He's sure as heck not going to die again for your sins. So it's important to understand that God is a good God, and where I have a weakness, let me rephrase. Everybody, God showed us the law in the Old Covenant, and God came and revealed Jesus. And through Jesus, grace and truth came. Are you with me, church? Amen. Through Jesus, grace and truth came. So in other words, it's God through Jesus, and then we have the law of Moses. And so many times we are focusing upon both of them, and then we get confused in the church. But it's important for you to understand that the law was given for a specific reason. It was given for a specific reason. The main function of the whole law of the Old Covenant, there's more than 613 laws, and if you miss one, you miss all. So let's all just be on the same level. None of us will make it. Okay? So that means we need somebody to help us to make it. Are you with me? And that somebody his name is Jesus. And with Jesus comes grace and truth. So in other words, is when you walk around and you think you're better than another person, it's because most probably you like the Pharisees. You've become self-righteous. Because if you understand grace, you understand that all of us are broken. And all of us have a need for a Savior, somebody who will fill up the gap. And it's important, because you know what, if you come to my life, you will definitely find fault. But I can guarantee you, when I come to your life, I'll find fault. It will just look different. So because we judge each other on the place where I succeed, I judge another person where they fail. But in their life, somewhere they succeed, so they can judge me in many places where I fail. So I want to tell you to get out the judgment that is in your heart against anybody or any preacher or any church or anything whatsoever. Get it out of your heart and start to take responsibility for your own life, so that you may believe the gospel and start to live it in your own life, and let God live His life through your life. Are you with me? We are in no position to judge anybody whatsoever. We are in every position to give grace and to give love to people. Because you see, people do the bad things that they do because they don't know the love of God. They don't know the love of God. But anyway, to get back, is the law is given there to show us that we can't make it. The law is there to point you to Jesus. That's the greatest function of the Lord. I want you to the greatest function of the law was to point you to Jesus. It's not so that you can go and worship the 10 Commandments, because you will keep failing and failing and failing. It's so that the 10 Commandments and all the other 613 laws can show you that you cannot live, you cannot succeed in your own flesh, in your own self. You need somebody, you need another power, which is the power of grace. And when I was in Johannesburg, I was introduced to grace, and I came to people and I started sharing with them about grace, and they said to me, we don't know about this grace. We're not happy with this, because there's other people that started to take the message of grace, and they started to say that all their sins, they're not going to get punished for that, and it's okay with God. Don't read the board. Eyes on me. So, in other words, grace, in a sense, among a lot of people, doesn't have a good reputation, because people think that they can sin and they can get away with it. They sin, and just because they don't get punished for it, it's okay. They can continue in that lifestyle. And you see, grace is either abused or misunderstood. Because God says to me, you know what? If you have an anger problem, the law tells you that I'm going to take an example. If I tell you that it's okay to have a drink, to have a dog, you know, it's okay to have a dog. I tell you now that, and then you're okay with it, and then suddenly I tell you, or you live like that, and then suddenly I tell you, you know what? If you want to be a leader in Jesus and really make an impact, you've got to stay away completely from alcohol. Now suddenly I made you aware of another, I've exposed the lie that you've lived in, that you were okay with. It's the same thing, you treat your wife very badly, and then you come to church and I tell you, you need to speak life over your wife and you need to change, not your wife. And suddenly I've exposed something inside of you which is called a weakness. Are you with me? So I've exposed something in you to say, but the problem is inside of you. You need help. And then that's what the law came to do. It exposed that we need help. And then from that point of view, we have to go to the throne of grace, because grace is a supernatural power that empowers me out of sin. Listen to what I'm saying. Grace empowers you out of sin. It does not say sin is okay. It empowers you out of them. So if you tell me that you understand grace, but you continue to live in the same anger issues, same lust issues, same all of those issues, different issues, everybody's got things. If you tell me you're under grace and you keep living in that, you don't understand grace. You might still be under the law, because the law shows you that you fail, and it shows you that you need help. And because what happens is, when I can understand and when my eyes can go open, I can go for help at the throne of grace. God gives me His love, His grace, and He shows me that it's not about me, that it's about Jesus. That I am inside of Jesus, and God sees me pure and holy. You see, if I tell you you are a sinner and you are bad and you do this and do that and do that, I can tell you that inside of your own self, you will keep failing according to those things. If I tell you to don't throw that house with the green roof, don't throw it with a stone, what happens with you? You want to throw it with a stone. Because the law, what it does is it produces a desire in us. Sin, the Bible says in Romans, it says sin uses the law to produce a desire in us for the things that is evil. Are you with me? So in other words, is when somebody drives in front of you, sin, you know you're not supposed to respond like that. But sin comes and it drives a desire in you that you want to just give them the fivefold ministry. This way and that way. Are you with me? So sin brings that desire to do something that is not looking like Jesus. But what grace does is when I go to grace, grace removes the desire of sin. Grace removes the desire of gossip. Grace removes the desire of being angry. Grace removes the desire of not forgiving others. Grace removes the desire of bitterness. Grace removes all your desires where you fail. Grace removes them. So if you struggle with them, it's an invitation for you to find grace in that area of your life where you fail. Ek hoop julle is by my. Ek dink dis baie goeie nuus hier. Because Jesus want to always show you that in your flesh, and as Paul said, in my flesh dwells no good thing. The Bible says to quickly agree with your adversary. That means when somebody comes against you and they tell you how bad you are, I'm like, yes, you are absolutely wrong. I don't qualify for pastor. Yes, you're absolutely right. I don't. But it's by the grace of God that I'm here. Amen. And because I'm here by the grace of God, God chose me, and He didn't die for me. Jesus died for me. So Jesus' opinion counts more than your opinion. Amen. So therefore I will live by the grace of God, even if I make a mistake. But there's not a, sometimes we make mistakes, but it's not necessarily a desire to sin. It's just a mistake. And then Paul says in Romans 7 verse 7, am I speaking too quickly? Paul says in Romans 7, he says, the things that I want to do, I don't. And the things that I really desire to do, I just don't do them. And what I don't want to do, I do, but what I do, I don't. And Paul speaks, and he says this, and he says, a wretched man. He says he takes the focus to his flesh. In my flesh dwells no good thing. Out of me comes nothing good. But by the grace of God, I can do what and like Paul said, by the grace of God, I am who I am. So Paul teaches us something amazing. He says, I boast in the grace of God. I rather boast in my weakness, that the grace of God may have its power working through me. It is amazing. So wherever you feel that you are falling short, all that you have to do is go to Jesus, go to the throne of grace, and find that grace. Because when you find that grace doesn't say, it's okay, continue with that sin. When you find that grace, it pushes you out of that sin. It pushes you. It drives you completely out of there. And that's why it's so important for us to understand this, because if we can, I've never seen it like this. God opened this up to me like this because I always saw grace, that we are under grace because we don't get punished. We are under the mercy because grace means you get God's favor upon your life and you don't deserve it. And that's why I also say, don't think because you get a bonus, it's because you're cute. It's because of the grace of God. Don't think because you are in the position of work that you are, because you're so fantastic. No, it's because of the grace of God. Because God's grace put that brain inside of you and put all those things inside of you that empowers you to accomplish these awesome things in life. It's God's grace. And when I understand God's grace for myself, grace always takes the glory back to God. And therefore I cannot say if I'm a millionaire, I cannot think that I'm so awesome and I'm so good. No, because it's God's grace that gave me what I have. We need to get this because it's important for us to understand the grace of God. Because that's a goodness. You go to your Father because He loves you. And that's why the prodigal son, when the prodigal son left his family and his house, he went, he he squandered all of his goods, and then he went into the pig stall, and he went there and he lived there. And he was there, and then from there he went to the Father's house, and when he got to the Father's house, the Father embraced him and clothed him and blessed him and threw a party for him. You see, it's our perspective towards our Father, because that story is not about the Son, it's about the Father that is so good. If it was about the Son, I don't know. But you see, the thing is that the Son would have not been spending time with the pigs if he knew the Father's heart. And that's why God says, come and know me personally. Don't look at me through the eyes and the mouths and the perspective of other human beings. Look at me and through Job. Guys, let us get something straight. We don't worship Job, we worship Jesus. Amen. So don't align your life with what happened to Job. We are under a new covenant under Jesus Christ. God is in no business to punish us or to make us, to send something bad, to teach us something out of there. It's not our Father. You see, if I believe that, I will represent that to other people. And you see, because we're on a church, we come to church and it's become so normal. But I want to tell you, if the world hears sometimes the things that we represent our Father with, to say our God came and took somebody, He killed somebody. If the world knows that, they don't want anything to do with God. And Jesus didn't take anyone. Wow, that's good news. Amen. Jesus didn't take anyone. Our God is not in the business of taking, He's in the business of giving. Our Father is a giving God, not a taking God. You see, if you believe our God is a taking God, then you will represent the same way, because you've been made in His image. I want to quickly come back. I was busy with the story, but I don't know where the story was. But let's go this way. I want to just quickly give you this, but you can take photos afterwards. But I want to share with you differences between the law and the grace. What was the purpose of the law, so that you can understand it? Because the thing is like I said, the law, sin uses the law to create a desire in you. And Paul, let's just read this, Romans 7. Ooh, this is really nice. Romans 7 verse 8, just so that you can have it. And sin found a way to use that command and cause me to want all kinds of things I should not want. All kinds of things I should not want. The law causes those things, but he says, is the law bad? No, the law is holy, the law is perfect. But the thing is the sin uses that to bring a desire for you to fail. So the purpose of the law is for people who don't know God. People who don't know God, that's the greatest purpose for them, is for people who don't know God, for people who are not led by the Spirit. And the law also brings the knowledge of sin. It's just like I said, we made that illustration, is if you say a church leader, I don't want you to have any alcohol. Why? Because you represent Jesus. And can I tell you something? All of you are church leaders. Hallelujah. So something, either rebellion kicks in or your own self-opinion kicks in. But it's not about us, it's about Jesus and about how we represent Him. And then the law also amplifies the conscience. It makes you more aware of all your weaknesses, of all the things where you fail, so that you can actually see that you need Jesus. Because so many times we live self-righteous that we think we're okay, but we're actually not okay. We need Jesus in every area. And then the law shows your ungodliness. The law brings you to the end of yourself so that you can understand you're not going to do this life in your own flesh. The law is God's standard of morality, and the law is good when you use it lawfully. The law draws you to sin through condemnation. You can go through the rest if you like. So the law points us always to Jesus. Always, always, always to Jesus. Say amen. Amen. Hallelujah. So the law always points you to Jesus. So don't live by by the law. He says, what I want you to do is to have a relationship with Jesus. And when you have a relationship with Jesus and find grace from Him for every weakness, then from that point, that grace comes and it pushes you out. And then when you live a higher standard, you have no right to judge anyone, because it was grace that put you to a higher standard. It wasn't you, it was grace. Because I can tell you, most probably, if I take grace out of this room, and the mercy of God, will most probably kill each other before we leave this room. You hear what I'm saying? It's so important. And then let's go to grace. Grace is the power for transformation. Grace is the key to repentance and victory. Grace powers you out of sin and your shortcomings. And what I wanted to show you actually is Paul mentioned this in 7. He says here in verse 17, he says, Romans 7 verse 17, he says, "But I am not really the one who is doing these hated things. It is sin living in me that does them." Wow. It is sin living in me. And therefore, he says in Romans 8 verse 1, he says, "Therefore there are no condemnation for those who are in Christ." Because if somebody tells me, you know what, you are a weak person, then I'm going to agree with you, because in my flesh I am weak. But by the grace of God I am strong. And that's why the Bible says, what the Lord does is it points you to you, and that you're not going to make it. But grace always points you to Christ, and that you are inside of Jesus, and that God looks at you through Jesus, and God blesses you not based on you, but based on Jesus. The goodness of God is not based on you, but it's based on Jesus. You see, so many times we get ourselves into a position where we don't feel worthy. Amen. It's what the Lord does. It points you to you, that you're not worthy. And then what you do is you just point it to Jesus. I am worthy. Because Jesus didn't die for unworthiness. Jesus died because we are valuable. I hope you're getting something here. Always remember, when you get all these feelings, depressed, all of that, it's all because the enemy tries to point you to you and your weakness. I can, by the grace, don't say I will stop to smoke. Say, by the grace of God, I will stop to smoke. Why? Because when I find grace for my smoking, grace comes and it removes the desire of smoke, and suddenly you don't have any desire to smoke. Some of you have no desire to be ugly to other people. Some of you have no desire to have frustration. Some of you have no desire to have irritation. Some of you, there's no desire. There's no desire. Why would I want to go and slap somebody if I have no desire to do that? You see, the law our sin uses the law to put that desire in me to go and just help people the way we want to help them, because we have become sometimes self-righteous. We judge other people for when they drive in front of you with their driving skills, but you're the person who just blues and blows and all of those things. Does this make sense? It says just stay with your own life and just realize that in your own life, it's just like Paul, in my flesh dwells no good thing. But I'm not anymore in my flesh, because I live unto what Jesus calls me to. I live and I use the power of God. And I will not use the power of God. God's grace comes and it empowers me. You see, the flesh is the part of you that sin can come and it can pull its strings inside of you. That's the part. The flesh is the part of you, but it's not in the you in Jesus. It's a part of your flesh. It's a part of your body on earth. It's a part of that when the desire comes to be angry, that's the flesh. That's the flesh. And so therefore, Paul just mentions it further in Romans 8. It says, we're not living by the flesh anymore. We live by the Spirit of God. So it's important for us to understand relationship. Everything happens with the relationship. If you see that there's a weakness, don't sit at home and think, I'm so poor, I'm so unworthy. No. Stand up and go to Jesus and let Him give you grace that will empower you out of yourself, that will empower you into Jesus. As Is julle wakker? Amen. Amen. I think I shall stop there. Yes, let's do it. Wow. So always remember, grace is not, and that's why Paul said in Romans 6, grace, does that mean that we can, just because we don't get punished for the things that we do wrong, does that mean we can continue in sin? And he says, no, absolutely not. Because we don't understand grace then. Grace is the very power that produces a desire in you to do good to other people. If you struggle to love other people, find grace at the throne of God. Because His grace will empower you to love people. His grace will empower you to forgive people. His grace will empower you to live and not live in bitterness and resentment against other people. His grace will come and show you that you actually, just like the other person you are judging or have unforgiveness against, you are in the same boat as they. You are the same damaged and you both need Jesus. And that's where we don't boast in the flesh. Because Paul was the one who can boast in all these good things and everything he's done, all the miracles and the writing of the New Testament. Paul is the one that can boast in all these things. But he says, no, I'm not going to boast in that. I'll rather boast in weakness. And that doesn't mean I walk around and think, oh, I'm just a weak person. No, you're not a weak person because the grace of God is inside of you. You're not weak. You're not poor. You're not just a plain sinner just hoping to be saved. You are saved by grace through faith, and you live by faith, and you live by grace. And that's why the Lord, what I want to share with you today is that when you feel a desire, or when there's a desire that pulls you somewhere where you don't want to be, go and find grace. Because that grace will take the desire away and put another desire to do good. Amen. Hallelujah. I want you to close your eyes and we're going to pray.